You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru at. Tümer gitti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 177 of Beşiktaş International's The Black Eagles podcast. We are back again, just another week later, staying on schedule these days, despite our team not having a schedule per se, or that is, being in the off season. It's a weird way of saying that, I guess. But yeah, so obviously an exciting time for all of us as the off season has started to kind of slowly move around a little bit, and we're starting to get some information actually about transfers incoming, friendly matches incoming as well. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. Of course, what we're really here for, all of us, is the much anticipated conclusion to my lovely chat with Kaan Bayazit, co-host here, former co-host, future co-host, present co-host, the co-host. But yeah, so the thrilling conclusion to our chat, and then of course at the very end of that, Evran, the Akman himself, will be back to give us the latest transfer news, and there's actually quite a bit that he has to report on. But so yeah, shouts to Evran as usual as well for coming through. But yeah, let's just cut right to the chase, perhaps. Before I do that, let me just make one announcement that's fairly exciting. We have some news regarding friendly matches for the off season. On July 27th, Beşiktaş will be playing Real Mallorca. On July 31st, Beşiktaş will be playing Levante, and then on August 4th, Beşiktaş will be playing Getafe. We don't have locations yet. I've been given them all as home matches. I don't know if all of these Spanish teams are going to be visiting Turkey. Perhaps it'll be a training camp deal in Antalya or something like that. But so yeah, stay tuned for any more information regarding that, but maybe not. At least we know we have 3 friendly matches against Spanish sides. That's kind of exciting. But so yeah, anyway, so that's the only news I have to report. There's obviously some transfer news. Salih Uçan is official with Beşiktaş. I'll let Evran do the bulk of the reporting though. And yeah, I mean, I mentioned that because it's actually a perfect segue to, once again, the thrilling conclusion to my fireside chat with Kaan Bayazit, who, yeah, look forward to him returning with Kaan's Corner, or, hashtag Kaan's something or other, whatever he comes up with for his name. But yeah, he will be returning with sort of regularly dropped regular commentary about Beşiktaş and whatever the latest news is. So yeah, more of Kaan in the future. But until then, what we have right now is the like I said, the third part of 3 of our season review for the 2020-2021 championship season for Beşiktaş. Let's get to it. I guess one thing I should probably note, as far as things we have mentioned, in relation to what you were just saying, had Sergen not re-signed, we would definitely not get Salih Uçan, we can probably say. So that's good as far as now. I think it's probably back on. Same thing maybe even with
he'll be announced in the next couple of days, it's being said. I don't know if we would not have signed him otherwise, but I do think that Sergen played a big part in his decision.
Right, and we've talked about how Sergen specifically has said he wants the chance to help Salih Uçan kind of reach that next level. So I feel like that would have definitely been a contributing factor for Salih to,
I mean, I would
coming
imagine
to
so. Yeah. So yeah, definitely.
Well, I'll leave on this note. This is perfect timing. Just less than 30 minutes ago, Sergen Dikme, who I think is still the go-to guy, right? He just put out a tweet. He said, Cagliari? How do you Cagliari?
Cagliari, Fiorentina, and Torino haven't put in any. They are interested in Vida, they said, but they haven't put in any official offers.
That's right. Yeah. But Salih Uçan, he says, will play for Beşiktaş next year. That seems very definitive. And an agreement was reached with Kenan Karaman. His contract with Fortuna Düsseldorf expires on June 30th. Yeah. So we have to wait for that to officially expire, obviously.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, obviously. So that's all good news. Also, he leaves that note with the sub note. There will be at least 7 transfers, he says. Yeah. So let's see. We've got Salih Uçan, Kenan Karaman, a striker.
Yeah.
What else are we?
TRT4 are also reporting that Beşiktaş have started preliminary negotiations for Alexander Mitrovic and Diego Costa. So striker position-wise, Diego Costa, that name's been thrown around a while already, and has been confirmed by several credible sources that Beşiktaş have made him an offer. Supposedly, Beşiktaş have offered him $1.5 million guaranteed with $500,000 in bonuses, so roughly $2 million a year.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I wanted to briefly sort of again pop some negative people's misconceptions here. A lot of people have said that Diego Costa would be the next Falcao, and I disagree insofar as it seems like we're being very careful about not overpaying, and that's the main thing about Falcao that was so dumb, and B, he's not as past it as Falcao. Falcao, especially with the type of injuries he's had. It's
difficult to say, really, because Costa had a really bad year because of COVID, and he had blood poisoning or something. So he's had some physical and health setbacks this season that ultimately ended up with him terminating his deal with Atletico. But I believe Diego Costa is 32 at this point, so he's not that old.
And also, the blood issues I'm assuming they're not the type of issues that would be chronic in a way that would impact his ability to play, right?
Not to my knowledge. I've spoken to a couple of people about it who follow the La Liga really close and asked them, hey, what's the deal with Diego? Is he basically, do you think he's past it? Is top football beyond him? And they did say, like the person I asked did say, well, probably, but maybe worth a gamble if Beşiktaş are interested, and if the deal is basically if the deal is feasible, advantageous, or however I should put it. So yeah. I mean, I think Diego Costa is. I wouldn't necessarily say the best option. Like, obviously, if you can get someone like Alexander Mitrovic, that would be better, but I honestly don't know how on earth we would be able to afford him. I think he still has a long-term contract.
Yeah, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah, so
the price is right.
I don't understand. Beşiktaş we are not in a position where we are going to be paying a fee, or a big fee at least. Like, maybe a couple of million, but let's not forget, we have to buy Gezal, we have to buy Rosier. Most of our transfer budget is going to go towards those guys probably, or at least one of those guys. I don't think Beşiktaş will be spending a lot in terms of transfer fees. We never do, but I don't think we should realistically expect that. Beşiktaş don't have that budget. That's not going to happen.
And our strength has been in our savviness, and it's even in our worst times of late, right? The Karius era and stuff like that. We were doing smart business by doing a loan with an option, and then another guy would bring in with a 2-year loan and then an option, and so spacing out our ability, our flexibility, and not locking ourselves in to big money sort of errors. So You know, even in our worst times, I think we've actually been pretty savvy in that regard.
I mean, yeah, you can say it's savvy. You can also say, well, look, it's just basically passing the buck to next season. Like,
right.
It is what we are kind of forced to doing, but it does always put us in those positions, like with Rosier and Gezal now, where we're now stuck with uncertainty.
Although I will say this, though, I think both Gezal and Rosier might have been more hesitant to sign up long term without that year. You know what I mean? And like now, I think they'll be way more receptive to it
For
too.
Rosier in particular, he did not like initially. Beşiktaş were the deal on the table was loan with option to buy, but Rosier requested that to be removed from the contract because he wasn't certain and he wanted to see first about how things would go, you know. So for sure that definitely played a role. So I don't know. I think for Gezal, it was more about it being a little like because that was a deadline day transfer. I think that was more about them not being able to get all that stuff agreed upon, and they just wanted to finish the transfer as quick as possible. Which
the story is famous now. The scooter to get the paperwork in.
Yeah.
Which is also, like, speaking of a romantic club, like, the stories like that are the type we'll probably always remember, you know? Our fan base, anyway.
Yeah, and, you know, for me, like, I think, Beşiktaş is a romantic club, it's a beautiful club. I'm not saying Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe aren't beautiful clubs. Like, obviously, to us, they aren't necessarily... But like I'm sure that to Galatasaray and Fenerbahçe fans, they are the most magnificent clubs in the world, and that's the way we feel about our club. You know, that's the way how we feel about our children, the way we feel about our spouses. Like our spouses, our children are always the most beautiful, and the smartest and all that, the most wonderful in the world, right? That's how we see. That's what you say when you're in love with something, and I think that's what we kind of have with our football club as well. And I think it's important to respect that other people may not feel that way and may not feel that way about theirs, and that's perfectly fine. But you know, like Beşiktaş is our one true love in football, at least. And
certainly, yeah. Don't tell my wife. No,
football.
For sure.
I said.
No.
You know, like
there's I've been accused of prioritizing Beşiktaş
I will say,
over other things.
I have told a lot of our younger friends, especially this past season, because it was such an emotional roller coaster. Football is amazing. Football is great. Beşiktaş is amazing. Beşiktaş is great. But the most important thing for mental health is that you have more going on in your life than just Beşiktaş. Don't let that be the one thing you're hung up on. You need to have a healthy amount of interests. Hobbies are important.
You need something to take your mind off of it on bad days.
And people to like. The thing is, like I used to be the same way. Like many of our younger friends, like Evran and like Kartal, and trust me, I can still have like after a loss, still have several bad days. Or even like the whole thing in the cup a couple of years ago with Fenerbahçe, that spoiled me for weeks. But it's very rare nowadays that
their fans made that so much worse.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you need to be able to set your mind on other things from time to time, and you need to realize that football is that. Football isn't always glory and victory. Football is sorrow and defeat. And that's part of it, and that's part of what makes the sport.
You don't get the good parts without the bad parts.
Exactly, and without the bad parts, without the lows, the highs aren't worth a damn. And that's why this season is so amazing, because we've had those lows, and that's why the next time Fenerbahçe win the championship, it's gonna be amazing for their fans, because they've been waiting for so long. And because they've had so many lows, and like hopefully they will have many more lows for the next coming years. I hope it extends for another decade. But when they finally do lift that trophy again, it's gonna be sweet for them.
If they ever do,
it'll be sour for us. You know.
Maybe they'll just become a basketball team.
Yeah, we'll become Beşiktaş FS fans for a while. Maybe if they merge, we can win a Europa whatever thing that is called.
The Euro League or whatever it's called. Yeah.
That only 25% of the population care about. The Euro League. Thank you. Yes.
Is that what it's called?
That is what it's called. Yeah. I didn't remember, but that is indeed.
There's like a few though too. I don't know the other ones.
Yeah, there's a few. The Euro League, I believe, has kind of a Super League, but not the Turkish Super League, the European Super League model, in which that you have guaranteed participants, regardless of domestic performance, if I'm not mistaken. So
that's crap. That's crap.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think Beşiktaş won the other version a couple of years ago.
The one you can actually automatically
the UEFA Cup. I'll put it that way. I think Beşiktaş won that. Yeah. Not too like I don't know 7-8 years ago or something. I don't know what exactly, but I believe Beşiktaş won that version. But Fenerbahçe of course won the Euro League a couple of years ago, and then this year Efes won the Euro League, and Fenerbahçe fans were super salty.
I noticed that. They were so upset.
They were super salty, and I couldn't care less. I honestly don't understand. Like, basketball, I think NBA is great and all that, but I don't have the time for it, man. Like, football for me, that's enough. Like, I don't have the time for basketball. Yeah. So my interest in basketball, I am not saying that I don't like basketball. I think basketball is great. It's an amazing sport. Can get extremely exciting. But, I only have room for one sport interest in my life. And I think that's the same way for many people.
I am the same way, but rather than it being sort of exclusive to the one sport, my attention in football is almost 100% Beşiktaş related. Like, I don't follow the sport at large much, and it's the same thing with basketball. My attention is almost entirely on the Knicks, and everything else is just sort of background. Like, I'll sometimes watch the playoff games in the background. I rarely watch other teams during the regular season. So I mitigate having two sports by not sort of, like, back in the day when I had time for all of it, I would play all the video games and I would know all the players on all the teams in both sports for the most part. And that is just not realistic anymore. Like, watching it's actually hilarious watching the Euros this summer. How out of touch I am, because there's all these guys who I thought would be good, and they're like kind of past it, and they're like on the bench already, or like not even on teams, and it's like what happened to this guy? Or like Italy is so weird to me. They're like the opposite of what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, but that's normal because Italy have a lot of players from the quote unquote smaller teams, so it's normal that as somebody who only follows the Serie A peripherally, or at best peripherally, you're not gonna know a lot of those players because they have a bunch of Sassuolo players, they have Atalanta players,
Which is a huge change for them, Like, they used to be so top heavy.
I mean, yeah, of course, but I mean, if you look at Atalanta, they've been performing the last couple of years. They've been amazing. Sassuolo has a great working, like the way that club functions is great. So, I mean, it's credit to those clubs. The fact that they do have that many players on the national team.
No, but I have a fantasy team actually with the Fault guys, the $40 turkey guys.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted me to get on that, but I'm so bad at that.
No, I should have rejected for the same reason that you did. But it's so funny because I like you would have done. I just set my team in the beginning and just let it go.
Exactly.
But
I probably would have done pretty well because Lukaku would have been my striker. So
well, he is my striker, so that's the only saving grace.
There you go.
My problem though is that I had Çaylar as my keeper, and Çaylar as my defender, and Uğurcan as my keeper. Because I was thinking we're playing Italy, and I was like, this is where I'm dated, right? I was like, they're probably gonna beat us, but maybe 1-0, and there's a chance we hold them to a draw. I'm thinking, Catenaccio, they're gonna defend and hold the ball.
Well, that's what we tried. That's what we tried, right?
We
tried to out-Italian the Italians, but they out-Spained us.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Italy's playing amazing football, and I think so far, from what I've seen, they play the best football at the Euros. Obviously, I'd love Belgium to win the Euros, but
you guys are playing great.
I think if it's not going to be Belgium, then let Italy win it, man. Like as long as France doesn't win,
I'm just sort of coming at this objectively, or like I said, I don't know a whole lot of what's going on anymore. I have to say that Belgium, Italy,
Germany was really good too. Like they got really
Germany, yeah, especially given that Portugal, is obviously a tough side, and they handled them.
And don't forget, like they lost that first game against France, and they got really unlucky in that one, and then they go behind against Portugal and still come back to win it 4-2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the pressure, like if they would have lost that game against Portugal, they had a serious chance of not making the next round. So, like they didn't even sweat. Like they just went up and over them, and that's like they played. I mean, I think apart from Italy, probably Germany has played the best football at the Euros. Belgium have not played that great, in my opinion. But
yeah, but what I've enjoyed about Belgium is that they now have so much talent in certain positions that they don't have to be, like you're still gonna get production up front, so as long as you can hold it in the back, and that's where I've actually been somewhat impressed with you guys. You guys have a really big back line that's very imposing. Like I would hate to feel like I need to score goals against your team.
Yeah, but the thing that Belgium lacks is a company. Like they don't have company anymore, so they lack that Virgil van Dijk. That they lack a high
physicality.
They lack a real no. They just lack a top tier defender to lead that defensive line, which they had, of course, with company in the past. But of course, he's retired now, and I think. I love Toby Alderweireld. I think he's fantastic. He's probably my one of my favorites on the national team. And Jan Vertonghen is great. Like they're great players, but they aren't elite. They aren't like Lukaku is one of the best in the world. Kevin De Bruyne is, in my opinion,
I think he is.
He is in his position the best player in the world, or at least top 2, top 3. But for me,
I'm going with both of them in the top of their positions.
I mean,
that's what I mean about it.
Well, I think Lewandowski, like as a pure 9, I think Lewandowski is probably a little bit ahead of him. But like,
I thought so too. But you know what? This tournament is what changed my mind in that regard, and it's because where Lewandowski has struggled because he hasn't been able to get the service he needs to be real productive.
Yeah, but
Lukaku has not struggled, and what's sort of impressive, I mean, especially to me, about Lukaku's game right now, is how much it's improved since I was last more regularly following. And so, I always felt like he had the capacity to be an amazing striker, with his finishing ability and all that. But it's so obvious to me how much he's worked at his game in terms of his ability to be on the ball and to move with it. And of course, he's still a little clunky. I mean, he's a big, very muscular dude. He's so much better.
He's like if we call Abubakar a tank, but like Lukaku is like
Lukaku is a man.
Twice the tank Abu is. Like I mean,
Lukaku, he has now he's sort of verging on the kind of physical freak, like LeBron James kind of he is a monster physically, and he's now good enough on the ball where you're like, oh my god, did he just do that? Like that big muscular, if you didn't know the game, and you just saw these things all objectively, you would immediately identify that guy is a physical freak of nature and just way too good on the ball and way too fast for his size and muscularity. I was blown away by him.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Far.
I mean, I've been a big proponent of Lukaku for many. I still cannot believe, and I back in the day in 2014, it really annoyed me that there was even a conversation being had about who should be Belgium's first striker. Like the question was Christian Benteke or Lukaku. And at the time, Mark Wilmots was the coach of Belgium, and he was very tight with Hazard and stuff, and Benteke was kind of Hazard's boy, and Benteke was playing quite a lot, and I just thought it was so ridiculous because you have one of the, at the time he wasn't among the best yet, but you could see, Benteke is a good player, good striker, sure, but, there's a difference. Lukaku was destined for greatness, and why would you bench him ever over Benteke? It's
and just when you know what, I can't believe how good he's become. Honestly, like it's
and he's only 28, and he's already scored 63 goals for his country.
Entering his prime. He's entering his prime.
Yeah. He's currently this is his prime. And if if you look at Lewandowski I think is 32 or something like that. And like he's been like, it's all about sustaining your prime, right? Like it's entering that prime, grabbing onto it, and then holding onto it. That's the most important part, and that's what many top tier strikers can't do. Like that's something like, for example, Diego Costa. He had that. He was among the best in the world, but then it slipped through his fingers. He couldn't sustain that. And it requires a rare player to hold on to that, like a Cristiano Ronaldo and like a Lionel Messi, to stay at the top of your game for 5+ years. And they've been doing it for longer than that. They've been doing it for 10 years.
What's amazing about them is how they can sort of adapt mentally to the game. But what impresses me about Lukaku, when you think about this aspect of it, is like, I don't imagine, as much as his game is predicated on physicality, it's not like his blowout speed. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually much more to do with his ability to hold off a guy. And so, even if he like blew out a knee, I don't think. I mean, granted, if it was like a really bad one, obviously then you're screwed. But I don't imagine it would like destroy his game to the extent that like Diego Costa kind of relied on that burst at the end. Whereas like Lukaku, honestly, he'll often take guys straight on and just like body them.
But Lukaku,
it's really something to see.
A lot of his great goals and his great contributions to play are from him just bulldozing toward goal and being unstoppable. So I do think that if he would lose that, I think that he would definitely have to seriously compensate and improve. But like Burak Yilmaz, we all thought would be the type of striker that wouldn't age well because of how he relied at being played through behind the back of the defense, and that he did rely heavily on his reaction speed and his acceleration and actual speed while running. And he's not slow by any means, but he's definitely not as quick as he was 6 years ago. And Burak is still, obviously he didn't have good Euros, but he had a fantastic season at Lille. And I know Umut, my friend from Football Turka, agrees with me on this, that probably Burak is better the last couple of years than he ever was because of his experience and the way he's matured as a player. And that's one of those things with Lukaku being only 28. Like he's already very mature because obviously he's been playing at the highest level for so long already. But he's still got, like, he can still improve his mental aspect of the game, in the sense that
mentality, dude, and that's why I was so impressed. Actually, I think was your first match against Russia. I think it was right. Yeah, and it was in that match. I think it was his second goal where he did it all with his feet, and he dribbled around two guys and then slotted it in, and it was just like,
that's one of those things.
God.
Like
if he can do that, it's over for any league that he plays in. Honestly,
that's
who's
going to
stop that?
Factor, right? Because Lukaku right now, the last 2 years at Inter, he's really come into his own, and he's just like, the confidence is bursting out of his pores. Like he's radiating it, and he is so confident right now. That makes him.
How much is a guy like Lukaku going to benefit from Hakan Çalhanoğlu's free set piece ability? Yeah. Oh my God, the Inter is going to be a beast.
Are you serious right now? I'm a hater, right? I'm a Hakan hater. I
am not Evran. I totally dislike Hakan Çalhanoğlu, but his only strength perfectly matches Lukaku, right? I mean, think of the free kick. Like, Lukaku with his physicality could just... Yeah, but
Lukaku is definitely someone who scores mainly from open play. Like, he's not... sure, he's tall and strong and he can hit the ball.
But he's never had a guy... very few players have had a guy like Hakan on set pieces, right?
I feel like his set pieces are a little bit overvalued.
Whoa, okay. I'll let you beef that out with Evran. I'm not a Hakan guy enough to defend him. I just feel like their strengths suit each other.
For me, like
I'll take your word for it.
I have a very hard time recognizing Hakan's qualities because I think he's such a shit human being. I mean, like
that's funny. I don't know anything about it.
Just the way he's left basically every single club in his career. It just to me, it's like, no. Just
I don't know if you saw. When I was just looking for Belgium stuff, I found a tweet of AC Milan fans. They'd burnt his shirt, which, speaking of a bad exit, I can't imagine much worse than that. This exit
for him is one of his cleanest yet. Like he didn't like screw anyone over here. Like when he went to Hamburg. When he went to Hamburg, he had already signed a contract with Trabzonspor, and he broke that, and he screwed them over on that. Then he went to Hamburg, and then at Hamburg, I don't remember if it was at Hamburg or at Leverkusen. I think but like at both clubs he did something nasty. But at one of the two, he basically, when he wanted to make that next transfer, he turned off his phone, stopped answering his clubs for weeks, completely ghosted his employer until they gave him what he wanted. Then he went, obviously, I think that's how he went to Milan, I think. Or might have not been. I might have been I think that might have been Hamburg to Leverkusen. And then I don't remember exactly what happened with Leverkusen to Milan, but I don't think that was kosher either. And then there's this, of course. This one's probably the least controversial because he's in
one way, at least financially.
But
at least Milan, But that is. Think of like Babel, right? Like think of how Besiktas fans view him now because of his joining the rival. Probably smacks of that. I would imagine Milan fans are pissed off.
I think there's a difference there where we were like, Babel was important for us and did good things for us, but he was 32, 33 years old when...
I know. Honestly, I'm still not even mad at Babel.
I mean,
I don't care.
They offered him. Like he asked that money from us and we refused to give it to him, and they paid him $2.5 million guaranteed, and then they gave him another signing bonus from $1 million or something a year. So basically, he's making like $3.5 million a year. So that's insane. We were paying him 2.1. Like he got at the twilight of his career, he got like a 35% pay bump still from just moving across the city. Like, can you fault him? No, I can't. Like, go ahead.
No, and that's the main thing. Like, when it comes to Babel, yes, he joined the rival, but I don't hate him because it's not like we were like, oh my god, we're losing Babel. Like, all of us felt like he was a stopgap as
Babel,
it was, and so
to me,
I feel we all feel like, okay, well, they can have the guy who's kind of already past it.
What Larin was this season. He was important in the system, but he wasn't a key player necessarily. Like Larin.
I mean, you could probably argue Larin was way more effective than Babel, even with the 19 goals. Or whatever.
I think.
It's debatable. Obviously, Babel was more useful in other ways.
Obviously, Larin didn't have that platform of the Champions League, but Babel definitely stepped up in the Champions League and all that. And I'm not going to despair. I think Babel was great for us. I think Larin just had a fantastic season for us. And that's one of those things with Kenan Karaman. Like, I've never been a fan of Kenan Karaman. I've never rated him. I think football, technically, he's not a very good football player. But I can perfectly see him filling that Larin role and doing well because he's the type of player that can keep running for 90 minutes. I'm sure he can follow Sergen's instructions to run to the far post, and he's good at using his physicality. I mean, technically he's not great, but he doesn't need to be for what we need him to play. So I think that Kenan Karaman, to go full circle, because we just spent like half an hour talking about the Euros, but to go full circle, I think Kenan Karaman is the type of player that makes sense for us. With the foreign limit changing, I think it's good to switch a quote-unquote non-key player like Larin, who was maybe not a key player in the definition of he was one of our determining players, but he was very important. and that role is important to fill, I think it's a good on paper move. I'm not saying it's a good move per se because we'll have to wait and see how he pans out. But I think if Sergen can get what he got out of Laren, then I think he can get something similar out of Kenan Karaman. I'm not saying 19 goals, but I think Kenan Karaman should be capable of scoring 10, 11, 12 goals in the system we play, assuming that we play good this season. Obviously, like if the team doesn't function, then Kenan won't be productive. But that's the same thing for Laren.
Well, and I think there's another aspect of this, and I mentioned this in our sort of transfer window preview episode last time. But for me, given the nature of our the foreigner limit being increased and all that in the CFF, I really feel that we're at a stage where we're signing. If you can get a guy on the national team at a reasonable price, no less, because like supposedly his contract's in like 900,000 or something. There's no reason you would ever say no, and at the very least, you're doing damage control, right? You're making sure that if this guy's not a bust and he can succeed in Turkey, he's not doing it for your rival, he's doing it for you. And he's cheap enough, and you know, given our need for depth, given our need in that position specifically, given our need for Turks specifically, it's. I don't think anyone should really be upset about that move, even though his Euros were less than ideal. But again, like honestly,
exactly.
Right?
Who's weren't?
Like Meri Demiral. Who would be sad that we got Meri Demiral, right? But at the same time, he had bad Euros.
Man,
so.
I read a tweet this week that was very confident in stating that Serdar Aziz was the superior defender over Meri Demiral and Çağlar Soyuncu. I mean, like, has to be true, right?
What was
Somebody
that?
writes it on Twitter,
Yeah.
has to be true.
Yeah, it was on Twitter. Another
It
Twitter
was written,
expert.
so it must be true.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy was a Fenerbahce fan. Maybe that played a part. I don't know. It's not like they didn't have enough players on the team. I mean, Ozan Tufan didn't play enough, right? Didn't get enough opportunities.
Exactly.
And everyone knows.
I picked that bastard for
Everyone
my
knows
fantasy team too.
I am a big fan of a motivated Ozan Tufan, but oh my God, was he? He did not give an absolute. He just.
Why couldn't Dorukhan play?
No,
game
not
3 when it's
Dorukhan.
clear Ozan's
Let
not getting it
Orkun
together.
play. Orkun. Let
Well,
him
yeah, Orkun
play.
cooked you for sure.
That kid, like in the friendlies, he was like one of the bright spots. Like he gave that assist, and
But I just because Ozan positionally was being relied on more defensively. That was why I sort of defaulted to Dorukhan. But I mean, Orkun
he put
provides so much
Okay,
more
he put
going
Okay
forward.
on the pitch in the first 2 games, and Ozan was terrible in both. And then he took Okay out, and he left Ozan on. I mean, that's one of those things. Like people often criticize me for my hate on Şenol Güneş, and it's not hate. It's just I was so tired of him. I mean, all mad respect for what he accomplished his first 2.5 years in Beşiktaş, like the 2 titles,
and with
the
Turkey
2 titles,
previously,
yeah, of
all
course,
that,
the 2 titles, the Champions League run. It was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much, Şenol Güneş. But you are a stubborn mule, and you always play favorites, and that's not how you select a national team.
That's how we fell apart because he started having favorites
But
to
he
play
does that
with
everywhere.
us, and that's clearly what's happened with the national side
That's
too.
why Şenol Güneş is good short term, but not long term. Like I know we got 2.5 years of success out of him, which is good. But
we also sacrificed 2 years because of him and his stubbornness at the end.
and how many players did he like? How many transfer fees did he ruin?
By not
basically,
letting them settle in because he was so stubborn about
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of those things. Like he has that tendency of if if I discovered you or you did something and you went to battle for me in the past, I'm gonna be loyal to you until to a fault. And he has that with Ozan Tufan on the national team. He had that with Quaresma, and everyone knows I love Quaresma. I'm a big Quaresma fan, but there was a time when it was time to bench him, and Şenol didn't do it. Şenol didn't, and that's one of those things. Like his first season at Beşiktaş, as soon as Quaresma did a Quaresma thing, a negative Quaresma thing, on the bench or subbed off. Yeah, and that's the thing he lost with him. Like as soon as he won that first title, and then especially that second season where Quaresma was very important. After that, it's like he could do no wrong. Like he could do whatever he wanted.
Definitely.
And Quaresma needed discipline. And that's a coaching. That's not on Quaresma. That's on Şenol Güneş lacking the discipline that he needed to put on him. Like he is at the end of the day, he's the boss, he's the coach, and he's supposed to keep his players in line.
For me, the biggest, the way he didn't just hurt our football on the pitch, but he hurt the club long term. Guys like Negredo and Jermaine Lens. I mean, I could probably just list Rodolfo. There's a whole list of guys
Mitrovic.
That were just completely given short shrift, dumped, and not given the ability to settle in. And how much money and time we wasted. Karius, absolutely.
Like, look, everyone who's listening to us right now is gonna think, oh, but those were all flops. Yeah, but why?
Exactly.
Why did they flop?
And Karius, like the thing about Karius that I'll never forget. I don't care how you feel about what he's done for the club, the money stuff he did after, all of that, whatever. At the end of the day, it was so damning when he came out and said that this guy has not spoken to me at all, right? Like, we said when we were bringing him in that this is a sensitive guy who's just had a really tough time and he needs like all the support he can get. And we were talking to the fans because it was such an it seemed obvious that the coach would know.
And that's the big difference with Sergen.
Yeah.
Because all his players say the same thing. All you hear of him is that he has a great relationship with his players.
Even the foreigners.
And that he talks to them.
That's so important.
Even the foreigners.
Ghazal, Rosier, Abu, every single one of them have talked about how important Sergen is and how they want to come back and play for him.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure the thing is like a Quaresma and a Cenk and those guys, they would have given quote unquote their lives for Şenol, but the other guys wouldn't. Negredo, Lens, those guys, no chance. And that's the difference with Sergen. Sergen's got even Laiç, despite the fact that they did not get along at the start, he won him over, and Laiç won him over. They won each other over, but they ultimately ended up, and that's the thing. Like Sergen, he has almost the entire team behind him, and a mutual friend of ours at the beginning of the season at some point, and he's gonna hate me for bringing this up because I keep bringing it up, and he's gonna get mad at me, but I'm not gonna name it. I'm not gonna name any names. A mutual friend of ours at the beginning of the season at a certain point said, I think Sergen has lost the locker room.
That's so funny.
The dressing room, I think he called it. And that's one of those things in hindsight, and I even thought it was ludicrous at the time, but in hindsight especially, like, I think it's the last thing that's going to happen with Sergen losing the dressing room, because he is clearly so...
connected.
He's got a relationship with everyone, with all the players, and with his staff. He's got a really good relationship with everyone. I think that's the difference with Şenol, and that's probably a generational thing as well, because Şenol as a player never really played with foreigners.
Yeah.
But back at the time in Şenol's,
that's a good point. Yeah.
And I think that Şenol's English, to my knowledge, he is not good. His English is very bad, to my knowledge. So I think his communication was always through a translator, and that's probably difficult.
Yeah.
And that's the difference with Sergen. I'm not saying that Sergen speaks perfect English, but Sergen
and furthermore,
finds a way to...
My only problem with what you're saying is it's not an excuse. Like, if you need a translator, pull the translator in. But you still should have made that effort, right?
Yeah.
That's what.
And this is one of those things, like, and that's not even something Karius said when Şenol was gone to my knowledge. I think that's something he. Yeah, that's
still
that's
there,
something
yeah.
he said. That's something he said after a match where Channel criticized him and like openly criticized him, and then Karius was asked about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's how it went, and Karius said, "Well, the manager's never spoken to me. Like, I would prefer he would tell it to me instead of the media."
Which is so fair.
And then you just know, like, and you can say what you want about Karius and his career since, like, it's not like he's doing great now. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Isn't he actually?
It's
I thought
about
he was popular again with Union Berlin or wherever he went.
I don't know.
I don't really care.
I don't really care. But for me, it's about what our coach does with the player at the time when he's contracted to Beşiktaş. And if you don't care enough to even talk to a guy and do your job and coach him, then why are you earning $1.5 million a year or whatever he was earning at the time? Like, why are you being paid to do this job that you're not doing?
You talked about it briefly, and I think it's such a key point. The generation gap. You mentioned it in a different light, but I think this is where it really shines through. And like, Şenol Güneş is from a different era. You know, and these kids these days, right? we're old. We could go, kids these days. But no, there's no doubt. Like, I mean, as a boss of a company that we own, we've hired many young people. Still work with them every day, and their emotional intelligence is way higher than ours. You know, or I think we're on the cusp, maybe, but certainly than older folk. And that's good and bad. And the good thing is that they're in touch, and you can reach them. But the bad thing is if you're not of the mind to do so, you won't. And I think a guy like Şenol Güneş, you know, if you're not going to talk to a dude at all, that's not going to fly with this generation. Yeah. Whereas I think Sergen, maybe prioritizing man management, it goes so far. I can't, like, I think camaraderie and like a team ethos and all that stuff, it's going to be even more prominent in this era because of, you know, the generational thing and all that. But
I think it's also a stubbornness factor, because let's not forget, like, from what I remember is, like, Şenol didn't want anyone. He didn't want a keeper. Remember, he wanted Tolga. Tolga was his boy, and the first time we tried to quote unquote, like, because the fans were calling for it, you know, when we tried to put somebody else in that position was when we got Boyko, and he basically, I mean, in my mind at least, Şenol, I'm not gonna say he sabotaged him, but he definitely didn't help him either. And then of course Fabri came, and Fabri was so good that Şenol couldn't go around him. But I think when Fabri
in the beginning, Fabri had some resistance too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. But Fabri had the mental wherewithal to
he overcame
win him over. He won Şenol over for sure. I think Karius never did.
And again, age, right? Like, Fabri is kind of represents our generation more, whereas Karius is more of a younger dude, like an Akman, if you will.
For sure. I mean, and the thing is just as well, like, I think with this is where why I call Şenol a stubborn mule, and also why I think he plays favorites is I think Şenol invests a lot in the relationship with his favorites, with his shushu's. I think he invests a lot, has invested a lot in the past in Burak. He's invested a lot in Ozan. He's invested a lot in Cenk. He's invested in Quaresma. He's invested in those guys for sure. But clearly, if you're not on his list of favorites, then you don't really get any FaceTime with the boss, and that's not. I don't think that's healthy.
And I don't know how much FaceTime those other guys got, aside from the fact that they're all kind of dominant personalities, outspoken, extroverted. So I'm sure that, like, they're all the type of guys who would go to the coach, really, you know, and they would have something to say rather than wanting to necessarily hear what a coach has to say. And I think perhaps Şenol Güneş responds better to those personality types. But again, right, like, you can't guarantee a personality type when you buy a player. You can see their tape, and you can see how well they kick a ball or dribble on it or whatever it is. But you don't often get.
I think that.
Yeah, maybe, but again, like, how much can you know?
Yeah.
about a dude from one
I think
conversation
too often
or even
that
two
the
or
problem
three.
was that Channel got players that he didn't approve, didn't want himself necessarily, and rather than making the best out of the situation, I think he kind of almost rebelled against the board or whatever, but and just went out of his way to, at the end of the day, it's like, it's not the player's fault that you didn't ask for them personally. It's not the player's fault that the board went against your wishes and didn't get Serdar Aziz but got Mitrovic or whatever it was at the time. That's not on the player. Like, you as
And it's childish, right? It's childish to play those games instead of
the coach
making do with what
the
you
coach can out his displeasure, but he should never take it out on the player. His job is to make the most out of what he's given, and that's the thing I like about Sergen, is that he utilizes his entire squad and he makes the most. He gets the best out of players, and I felt like Channel never. Well, he did that with some players, but I felt like he did it with too few, and he didn't utilize the squad.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and again, right? It's one thing to take it out on players, but once, and as we already sort of talked about, once it starts to impact the club, that's when, right? Like, it goes beyond like petty
obviously he
or
won a lot of
childish,
money
and it
for the
becomes
club, right? He
destructive.
won 2 championships. He qualified us for the Champions League with that. He got a lot of money for the club in that regard. He did put.
But think of all the money lost on transfers.
But I mean, that's always happened. That'll always happen. There's no.
But more with him, right?
But I think he definitely did some capital destruction, as we call it in Dutch, which means basically that the equity you have is that you basically destroy its value by.
He devalued assets.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
He did that because that's what football players
Look at Jermaine Lens still, right? We're still paying that bum.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the case with multiple players. Like, I think a guy like Matej Mitrovic. Like, I'm not saying that we could have sold him for 10 million or anything, because clearly, like,
we were on the same side of things.
Yeah, I mean, like, we bought him for 4.2 and we sold him at a minor loss, but we sold him at a loss. And the thing is one of those things where I felt like after he missed that penalty against Lyon, it was kind of over. Like, for Channel, he was done. Like...
Yeah, shades of Pedro Franco.
Yeah, and he's done that with
that one bad.
He's done that with...
Or Isimat, right, against Fener.
He did that with multiple players where I felt that he kind of wrote them off. And I'm not saying that he didn't play them anymore after.
Actually, Isimat was him, wasn't it? That was no, that was Avci. That was Avci.
No, Isimat was Channel.
It was?
Yeah.
The Fener match where he had one bad half and that was the end of his... Jesus,
well, he did still play after that, but yeah, definitely. Like,
minimally.
Channel always has a scapegoat. And maybe Sergen will too. We haven't seen that side of Sergen yet. But we can...
I mean, honestly, though, like, this season, there were so many opportunities for him to blame, especially early on and then late on in the season, where he could have blamed individuals, and he never did. And like you said...
He protects his players.
Strongest ability was shielding players from criticism and actually...
taking it on himself.
Very much absorbing.
And I think players appreciate that, and that's also why players... Not just individuals, but like the team as a whole, I think appreciates that, because they know this coach fights for us, so we're gonna fight for him. And I think that's kind of
he didn't crap on anyone in post-game. Like, I don't remember him being like, this Laren character just can't get it together. Like the kind of thing you would have heard Shannon Ganesh say about, like he did say about a number of players at the time. Sergen really, when we played poorly, he would always center himself, right? And he would say, our preparation wasn't right. We've got to do better. He would keep the commentary very minimal, which, again, like, when you're down and you can criticize others, it's better to be quiet and more pensive and, like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be the reason that someone on your team is underperforming. You don't want to be the reason that their morale is suffering. If it's suffering, it's going to impact their performance. And so it's very much in your interest not to be the reason to do that. So, I mean, massive shouts to Sergen for what he's managed so far. And, perhaps middle finger to Chanel, to be honest. I really, this is my biggest fear and now I'm so glad we can have this episode now that we're, Sergen is in. My fear you know where I'm going with this, right? Is that if we couldn't have signed Sergen, you know who would probably come next?
Yeah, I mean,
Chenel, I assume.
Ahmet Nurçebi has a good relationship with Chenel, but of course Chenel is still at the national team. He is not resigning. I don't think he's getting fired because he does what he's told. So I mean, that was my fear. Leading into all of this, I was like that. I stayed quiet about it, but like the kind of the eerie feeling I had in the back of my head was things aren't going well in the national team. Sergen just pulled off a miracle with Beşiktaş. He's out of contract. They still haven't reached terms, and it's looking more and more likely like Turkey's going to go out of the Euros. This is a progressive thought line, of course.
Yeah.
And then obviously, once we got eliminated at the end there, like the feeling for me was kind of like I wasn't say I was convinced of it, but definitely that option was in my head of, ooh, okay, they might sack Chenel now, and Sergen's just waiting for that opportunity to sign with the national team for big money, because Chenel's paid like $3 million a year.
I know, that was one of my bigger fears too, was how much they were obviously willing to spend for that.
Yeah. And there's a lot been said about Sergen's wage and all that, and his demands, but let's not forget, like, his wage includes his staff. It's not just for him. And like supposedly the biggest issue in the negotiations was Sergen really wanted to keep the team together as much as possible and to strengthen it, whereas the board, I think, of course they wanted to do what was possible, but they also wanted to take that 45 million from the Champions League and kind of put it in the bank almost, And I completely agree with the board.
I get it, yeah.
Like for me, Champions League success is not important.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I get Sergen doesn't want to go to the Champions League and get slaughtered.
In fact, I respect that he doesn't want to do the Abdullah Avci thing, right? Like, shore up his reputation domestically first type nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm kind of torn on that. For me personally, I very much hope that we have a respectable campaign. I don't think it's realistic for us to expect to go through to the next round of the Champions League. I mean, obviously you can get lucky with the draw, but I don't think it's realistic. I think Europa League after the winter break would be a tremendous accomplishment, but we should put our main focus on the league and winning the league again. And I'm not saying it's gonna be extremely difficult for us to do, like, doing better than this season is basically impossible. But the goal should be win the league again, extend our title, to extend that Champions League money, hopefully. And let's not forget, this is the last time the Turkish champion will qualify directly for the Champions League for a while. So, if we win the title this coming season, then we'll have to play qualifiers the very next season. But at the end of the day, I really do hope that we do okay in Europe, but most importantly, that we do well in the league and retain Ghezal, retain Nicosia, build a team towards the future that Sergen hopefully can be in charge of for many more years to come and be successful with.
Yeah,
that's my dream. That's my hope. That's my dream. I don't know if it will happen, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't, we'll always have the 2020-2021 season, which was amazing.
One of my favorites of all time, if not my favorite. No, I think so too. Even if Sergen had left, I feel like, I mean, honestly, a coach could have messed it up. A new coach could have totally broken what he'd built. So I'm glad he's there to kind of solidify that base. But certainly, I think the foundation that Sergen's built is a strong one.
The only coach that I would have wanted if Sergen left would have been Riza Çalınbay, I think, and he's not available.
Exactly.
So I don't see any logical. I don't see any logical candidates otherwise. Like, and even Riza. You know what? Honestly, I don't think I would want Riza, because Riza, I would feel really bad for him to come into a very bad situation. Yeah. If Riza ever becomes Beşiktaş coach again, I want it to be through the front gate, not with the fans being against the board because they let Sergen go and stuff like that. If Riza ever gets that opportunity again, it has to be under the right circumstances, because I feel like the first time he was kind of set up for failure, and that was a very tough nut to crack, the hard pill to swallow for him for many years. He carried that around. We all noticed that.
For sure.
He's an absolute legend of the club, which I think today's generation doesn't recognize. But Riza was basically like he was the Steven Gerrard of Beşiktaş. Like, he played 16 years professional football and it was all for Beşiktaş. Like, he didn't play for a single different club, and he was the captain. He was, I mean, it's one of those things. Like, he deserves, if he's ever gonna get that job again, he deserves it
properly
under the right circumstances.
Yeah. No, I hear that.
And a part of me, of course, wants to see Sir Alex Ferguson like Sergen Yalçın run now for many years to come. But we all know that in modern football, that is not necessarily a realistic thing to aspire to.
Especially in Turkey with all the turnover,
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that's hopefully my first hope. But if not, if Sergen does, next year or the year after, or the year after that, or the year after that, decide, okay, I need a sabbatical, or I don't want to do this anymore, or for some reason, one reason or another, he's out.
Maybe at some point the national team beckons, right? Like, okay.
Maybe. I mean, I very much prefer he just, stay at Beşiktaş then, but
No, I actually don't care a ton about the national team, honestly. I'm really a Beşiktaş guy. I want them to win, of course. Turkey is my team, but I'm just more into club football personally.
It's difficult for me. I can't say that it's cost me any grief to see Turkey do so poorly. I really wanted them to do well. I wanted it for Channel too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've been very negative on Channel, but I do still respect and love him. I just think that the problem is that a lot of Beşiktaş fans glorify him now and don't see those obvious flaws in his coaching style.
Sure.
And every coach has his flaws. Sergen has his flaws too, but I think Channel's flaws are more detrimental right now. Like, because they, like we said, they have impacted the club in a negative way. They have impacted a lot of careers in a negative way. He's also impacted a lot of careers in a positive way. Don't get me wrong, but I for one am glad he's gone. I'm grateful for what he's done to the first 2.5 years. I'm very grateful for those 2.5 years. They were wonderful, but I am very happy he's gone. And I'm very happy with his replacement. Sergen, for me, is a better coach and
a better fit, a better everything.
Better everything.
Modern mentality, perhaps. Yeah. Anyway, we should probably wrap this thing up. This was excellent. It was great to have you back, Kaan. Now, this is a great moment. I think we should introduce your Kaan's Corner. What are we calling it?
I don't know.
We need a good name. We don't have a name for it yet, but anyway. Kaan will be submitting, and obviously, the more we can actually record episodes together, the better. But in the absence of that,
well, I have good news, Sinan. In about a year, we will be able to revert back to recording together.
The old school. Nice. I like it.
Yes. Finally, the plans have come true. Contracts have been signed. At the end of October, beginning of November, we are finally starting construction on our new house. So hopefully,
awesome. Congrats,
by maybe this time next year, but I doubt it. Probably a couple of months later. But let's say a good 12 months from now, hopefully, our house will at least be livable in. I'm not gonna say.
So next season we'll be back to the old format. This season, this current. I guess is it already
the season after? It's gonna be the season after.
I guess so. We're saying next season is okay. This is after next. Okay.
So
but yeah, I'm already calling next season this season. I'm in the mode.
All right.
I'm geared into it. You know?
So
but no, for sure.
So hopefully, midway through the 2022-2023 season, my life will have normalized again, and I will be able to actually record with you at a normal time for you, not in the morning.
But
I mean, now.
But meantime, in the meanwhile, we're gonna create a special segment as often as possible. Certainly, whenever you have something to talk about. But so Kaan is gonna submit. We always do the after the beep thing. This will make more of an actual segment. I'll put it in the middle of episodes, and so Kaan is gonna have a segment.
You know what? You can call it before the bleep.
Before the bleep. Ooh, I like it.
Not after the beep. but before the bleep, because I'll probably be swearing.
Because they'll be bleeping. Like, for everyone who's, anybody who's offended by curse words, get ready. No, it'll be great to hear you back on the podcast regularly, of course, to get your thoughts.
I mean, I'd very much prefer it if it would be in just us going back and forth, because I do miss that. It's always great to catch up with you, Sinan, and it's unfortunate, but like, for the time being, that's just the way it is. It's also kind of why the Football Turka podcast isn't as regular as I would like it to be. Hopefully, once our house is finished and my studio for recording is finished, because there's a possibility there to actually do something there.
Go nuts with it. Yeah.
I mean, we're probably gonna have a completely insulated basement area as well under the entire house. So there's gonna be a lot of.
You could start a band.
But I'm not very musical. I mean, I can sing, sure, I can sing, but I can't play any instruments except for maybe the block flute. I don't know if that's even a word in English, and I can't.
Well, you can certainly lead guilds from down there in peace.
Definitely.
Well, dude, it was awesome to have you, man. Great, so much to talk about, of course, and I think that's obviously why we went on for so long, because it's been, we should do it more if we can. Obviously, if schedules work out and all that, but. Regardless,
I think Evran does a tremendous job. He's with this analytical mind, and he has a good view on football. He just has this predisposition of liking the bad boys, which is not always a great thing. But I enjoy Evran's takes on football for sure, and I respect his opinion.
His youthful outlook.
I mean, he has very good takes on football. Some I don't agree with necessarily, but
Chalhanoglu,
for instance, or his obsession with Neymar. Oh my god.
Oh man, yeah, that one's even worse for sure.
He likes those divas. He does.
I mean, you kind of get it, like from Quaresma.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like you've gone too far this time.
But it's like like he'll gush over Neymar. But then he'll like kind of downplay a Kevin De Bruyne, and I'm like, yeah, dude, no, come on, recognize greatness, come on.
He's all about the flash.
Oh, he's all about the flair,
He's a kid. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
these youths.
No,
obviously Evran is a great co-host too. But no, it was excellent having you, dude. Follow this man on Twitter at Razerian, RAZZERIAN.
Only follow me if you aren't. So I don't need any of those people in my life.
No drama. No, for
dumbasses
sure.
of the world. Like, just stay away. I don't need you.
The Twitter jerks, the drama clowns. No, I'm with you on that. And for those of you who are like that and you are following me, you can stop. we don't need that. I'm kidding. No, it was awesome to have you. Follow us on on Twitter also at Eagles_podcast, Besiktas_INT, right? Lots of news coming in.
Oh, and I have some plans, by the way, for the future. I'm probably gonna start once. That's something for not too this like once we're in the house probably. But I am planning of finally going to show off my shirt collection on Instagram at some point. I have that ambition because I'm adding a couple of nice pieces, and I think I showed you the last one I got.
That's great. You spent a pretty penny on it.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm at this point now where I have to delve into the 90s, and those shirts tend to cost a pretty penny. So if you do have some classical Besiktas shirts from the mid to early 90s, the Adidas versions especially, and you want to get rid of them and they're in great condition, let me know.
Yeah, he's on the market always.
I am on the market. For sure.
It's funny. I spend all my money on like newer shirts, like every season, and then now Knicks gear too. So I've taken on a lot financially.
Yeah, you know what?
Shirts.
I've been kind of slacking on that a little bit. Like last season, I didn't get any shirts. I got a bunch of because I love to wear. Like, I love the Adidas pantses. Like, I have a bunch of 3/4 pantses, and I have several long training tracksuit pantses. And I spent loads of money on Cartel Juvis stuff last year, but I just didn't buy any shirts. Wow. And usually because I like to get match-worn shirts. And that's why I usually don't buy them from the store. But last season there wasn't really anything like, I mean, an Atiba shirt for sure, but I ended up getting one for this season. Because I still didn't have an Atiba match-worn. I did get one for this season though, so. But I don't know, like last season I really liked the black shirt, but I didn't really like the white one. I don't even remember what the third one was, that lilac shirt, right?
One. Yeah, I kind of like that. I mean, it's a collector's item,
so
maybe.
I mean, yeah, I should still get the black one at some point, but I'm kind of slacking on that. I like 2 seasons ago I didn't even get the white shirt because I didn't really like it. I'm a lot more picky about the newer shirts, I guess. Like I liked the shirts. I didn't really like the white shirt this season, but I loved the red one, and I liked the striped one fine. But because of it being a championship season, I ended up getting all 3. I got a Gizal one from the cup final. I got a Rosier one, match worn.
Count me jealous. That's amazing. I don't know if you saw
an Atiba one
to raise funds for Mohammed. We sold an El Neni match worn and an Atiba, and the Atiba match worn. I wanted it so bad, and I felt like it was the whole conflict of interest thing. Really bothered me. Because I also I've donated the most, so I felt especially crappy about I wanted that one, but whatever.
Yeah,
we live on.
We
carry on.
For sure. Yeah. No, I actually put a break on my shirt spending for a long time, man. Saving up for the house.
Yeah. But now that that's sorted, you're back in business.
Well, I still should, but there's a couple of those shirts that I could not resist. Felt like I had to have those for this season, and then the shirt I bought recently, it was one of those shirts that everyone needs to have in their collection. So, yeah.
Well, dude,
and hard to find.
We'll be back, and maybe you could interview Badish this year about the next season kids. But either way, one of us probably will. But anyway, we'll be back soon. Great to have you, Kaan. Everyone stay tuned. We will be back more regularly now that the transfer season is hopefully kicking up. Certainly we'll have some friendlies to announce soon, you'd imagine, a schedule of some sort.
The training schedule, when the team starts training again, has been announced at least, but no friendlies. We were supposed to go to training camp in Slovakia, but they cancelled that.
COVID, I guess.
They're just gonna train at the facilities.
This is like wave 4 for you guys in Europe, man. It's getting nuts. Hopefully there's less COVID stuff next season. But anyway, it was a great chat, Kaan. I hope we'll get the chance to do it more. But either way, it'll be great to have you on the before the bleep, if you will.
I don't know. It was just a suggestion.
I like it. We'll workshop it. Thanks for coming on, dude. As always, it's good to get 2 episodes out of the way too. It helps me a lot, actually, in this season. I also suspect it might be the news will be a little bit slow. Probably, since we just got the manager. It should speed up.
I don't know. I expect it to pick up. Yeah, it could pick up now. I mean, I think Salih Uçan will be announced soon. Kaan probably announced soon. Hopefully, Rosier and or Gazal soon.
And certainly, if we get any foreign transfer, we might have to call you in to do an interview, like we did in the old days. Find a good journalist who knows what they're talking about.
If I can,
something like that.
Yeah.
Sure, anyway, Kaan, awesome talking to you. I'm sure the listeners will appreciate it too. Pick yourself well, dude.
You too, and the listeners, of course.
Thank you very much, Kaan. Great to have you back for 3 episodes, although just 1 conversation technically. It was a great chat. I hope you all enjoyed it. I think we covered just about everything, including a little bit of outdated Euro takes and whatnot, but whatever. I kept it all in there just for the sake of, your listening pleasure. Without any further ado, let me cut right to our friend Evran the Akman with the latest transfer news.
Alright, so the last mini transfer update of this epic Kaan and Sinan discussion. So the first transfer of the season has finally happened. Salih Uçan officially signed the contract and he's in training. Multiple players re-signed. His contracts ended. I think the most notable, Atiba Hutchinson, never in doubt, re-extended for one more year. Kaan re-extended for a 1 + 1 year contract. Utku re-signed for 3 years. So that was kind of the maybe a little bit of a surprise. And then Necip kind of like reshifted his contract, so he still has 2 more years with us somehow. And then with that, Tyler Boyd, who was originally out of the team, is now back in training. Kartal Kara is still training with the team. Nothing else crazy going on. We're in negotiations with Gezal still. Those have not finished, and then there's not been progress made with the team. Rosier, we don't know what's happening. He's posting like videos of him training in French shirts and Beşiktaş shirts. No other teams not sporting the team, that owns him. He has not reported to preseason there, so I think still wants to come back, but we're still waiting. That's in balance. Kenan Karaman's had no new news. Diego Costa, the number 1 striker target supposedly. There's been nothing new from our side, but Benfica, who's considered the top competitor for Diego Costa, their president was getting arrested. Like they're sending, I don't know exactly what the charges are, but that could definitely throw a wrench in their ability to negotiate for things when the president's getting arrested. So that could help us get Diego Costa, but it's not a guarantee. Alex Teixeira's still training on his own. He's a free agent. Lajic is with the team training with us. So that's like the supposed swap that's going to happen, but there hasn't been any official progress. But we know that the club wants Alex Teixeira. So then the club is monitoring several center backs, Turkish center backs, Kaan Ayhan and Mercetin, who are in Italy. But those are tough ones because the clubs are not likely to loan them out. But if the loans are available, then obviously every club in Turkey will jump on that opportunity. And then another one that was actually on my transfer list, Abdülkerim Bardakçı. Beşiktaş is interested in him. The fee is likely to be around $1 million, and Gala is also interested, but I think we have the edge in that transfer. Montero. Javi Montero officially said goodbye, which is not a shock. That his loan was not extended with the foreigner limit, the 8+6 coming this year. There's no space for him in the team. There's barely space for Boyd. It's just a logical conclusion. Beşiktaş is supposedly, according to Orta Çizgi, which is no longer top tier official like Sergen Dikme, but it's still pretty reliable. So we have made an official offer for Bruma. There are also Dutch sources saying we were interested with a loan with an option to buy for like 1/6 to 1/7 the fee that PSV just paid for him from Leipzig. Just 2.5 million euros is what Beşiktaş offered as a transfer fee. Obviously, if they loaned him, they'd have to take the brunt, if not all of his salary. But Dutch salaries tend to be on the lower side. So it should be an affordable transfer, but some people won't want him to come. And there's been a lot of other big names thrown around. Paulinho's a free agent. The name Dzeko's been thrown around. Those are a little bit stretches. I'm not gonna say impossible, but improbable. Not really worth. The odds of them asking for under $3 million salary are so low, and I don't think the club will be spending that much. So, but if there's any developments, we'll let you know, and you can get back to the great combo with the guys.
Thank you very much, Evran. the man, returns with the latest and lots of news there. Fun stuff for us to all consider. So yeah, we'll be back next week. I will be back with someone or not. I don't know. Who knows? But we'll definitely be back somehow with the latest. Hopefully with some more transfer news. Certainly we'll have a little bit more discussion of Salih Uçan as an official member of Beşiktaş, and maybe someone else or a few people. Who knows by then? But certainly we will be back. Thanks for tuning in as usual. Follow us on Twitter at Eagles_podcast for the podcast account. Follow myself at Sir_Wright_a lot. Follow Kaan, our guest this week, at Razzerian, RAZZERIAN. And follow us on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast. One word. One more word from our sponsors. As far as myself goes, anyway. Let's go Beşiktaş! Peace out, everyone. See you around, folks. Back next week.
Çok harikasın, çok güzelsin. Harika, harika, harika.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.